Thanks for tuning in once again to Jets Chronicles. Right now, of course, we are a new YouTube channel, but I have been covering the New York Jets for over 30 years professionally, and I've been a fan for about 50. You can check out our first video, which does outline my personal history as well as a lot that has taken place over the New York Jets history, as far as I could tell from my point of view. Dating back to the last playoff appearance against the Pittsburgh Steelers quite a long time ago. So I hope you enjoy that video. And we're going to have many more to come. What I wanted to do here is I want to be able to outline, because I've been really working on this channel for the past several months and just pretty much since the season ended. And so I made sure to save a lot of the stuff that I originally would have talked about had the channel been alive. And so trust me, there's a lot of stuff there is so much anti-Jet content that comes out from channels and media types that are supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to even be fans. And as we know, as Jet fans, we just don't get that sort of respect that we really should get from especially fans. But even the media is supposed to cover us 50-50, no bias. And so we see that doesn't happen very often, which is why I'm really excited to do this. And what I wanted to do in this first installment is take a look back at the last couple of months at some of the important things that were said that really go deep inside the culture of what it's like to be a Jet fan and hear anti-Jet sentiment. So you might remember this. This was about, and look, I'll be honest with you. I don't live in New York anymore. I grew up in New York. I grew up in the Mike and the Mad Dog days. I left when I was just about 20. So you're talking close to 40 years ago. So I really don't know who these guys are. I mean, I know that's a barber. That's all I know. And anytime that I try giving one of these shows an opportunity, and I do, it's pretty quick. I can decipher by just watching one particular segment and a topic regarding the Jets and say, okay, are we getting a fair take here or not? And it took me about, I don't know, 5 minutes. I don't know when it was. It might have been a few years ago on one of these shows. And I was, okay, this is no good. These guys are idiots. So let's start talking. And look, sometimes I'll use words like that because I think it's warranted, especially for New Yorkers, because New Yorkers can take it and they're used to calling people idiots themselves. And I'm sure on one of these clips we might get that. So if you're going to play that sort of game and you're going to speak that sort of language, and I'm going to do the same thing. Let's start with this clip.
We already knew. Everyone already knew. Connor Hughes was on last week confirming it. Yeah, it was a done deal. And then something happened. He didn't have the specifics, but something happened. The something being Woody Johnson makes complete sense, of course, because he's done it before.
Now, keep in mind, he's done it before is coming from these guys here, the WFAN media, or at least this specific show, that whatever they're talking about is gospel. It's 100%. It's fact. We're not going to get into that. That would take forever. But that's what they're saying. They're saying, and again, that's it. Woody's done this before. Okay, well, how do you know? Now, this is important. If you're a fan, you're somebody that is unsure whether these guys know what they're talking about. Well, here is a perfect case study. Okay, since we don't have the time and we're not going to go through years and years of when Woody fired someone or when he supposedly got involved or got handsy. He's done this before. What are they talking about? Let me get some clips. I don't need to do that because we have a case study right here. Okay. So they believe that Woody has done this before. And so they have this narrative about Woody, right? That's what they believe. Okay. They've done their research. They've got their sources. This is what they stand on. So now let's see what they stand on.
It actually fits what he does.
Yeah.
He gets handsy. And if what you're saying is true, and again, I have no reason not to believe you because it follows his track record. It's just on a timestamp that's quicker. We are so screwed as Jet fans because the hope was, well, maybe Aaron Glenn will figure it out. Maybe Darren Muji will figure it out. Well, how are they going to figure it out if the owner is telling him, no, you can't hire your DC. You're the DC.
Right.
That's why I pay you.
Okay, so this is what they believe. This is what they believe this. Now let's go back and see what he said.
So we all saw the defensive coordinator hire last week. Bucher? We forgot his name already. It doesn't really matter because he's not really the DC. And this is the point.
Brian Duker.
Brian Duker.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Aaron Glenn, we all thought, oh, Aaron Glenn just wants to call the plays. He wants to take control of his own thing. That is not the case. Aaron Glenn did come to an agreement with Wink Martindale, and Aaron Glenn was under the impression he had free reign to hire his coaches. Aaron Glenn let his coaching staff know, hey, you're free to seek other opportunities, as we had read about. And all of a sudden, a month changed and everybody got fired. And we're like, well, what the hell happened? Does Aaron Glenn not know what he was doing? Aaron Glenn told those guys, hey, listen, go seek other opportunities. I'm going to try to limit the shakeups here. We're going to hire a real defensive coordinator. We're going to get this thing rolling. When he flew down to Florida to meet with Woody Johnson to get him signing on the dotted line on how much he needed to pay Wink Martindale, Woody Johnson looked Aaron Glenn dead in the eyes and said, I'm paying you $12 million. You're coaching the defense. We're not hiring a defensive coordinator when that is your background.
Look at what these bozos, look at how they're reacting to this completely made up story. Look at the way they're reacting. See, apparently this guy in the middle is some sort of sidekick to the host and the co-host. I'm assuming Barber and whoever this guy is, they're the host and the co-host. And this guy comes in and gives stories and tries to entertain them with bullshit. And this is what's entertaining. And but instead of it just being that entertaining, these two bozos actually believe it. I mean, there's no big give and take. There is just total belief. The bullshit that comes out of this guy's mouth is a fact to these guys. Case study. So anytime, just like we heard a couple minutes ago with said host about Woody's done this before. So these are the type of rumors and made up stories that this guy, or maybe both of them, that this show believes. So this is all true to them. All this garbage, this nonsense. These guys, I don't know why they do it. I honestly don't. I don't know if they just feel it's a great way to entertain the audience. And that's what these guys are. They are professionals. Whether or not you agree with them or think they're clowns, like I do, they're still professional clowns. It's up to you then, hopefully, to have a big enough want and need to hear facts instead of entertainment. And look, it's completely up to you if you want to be entertained by this shit. And that's it. Hey, I like the guys, they're funny. They do other stuff. I enjoy it. I don't take this stuff seriously. I am completely okay with that. Completely. But if, on the other hand, you actually want to get informed and you really want to know about the team. You really want to know whether this stuff is real. Well, look, you can keep watching this. There's more than enough time in your schedule to check out a couple different channels, a couple different shows, especially when it comes to your football team, depending on how, dire, how much of a diehard fan you are. So it's up to you. And I welcome as many of you as possible. And I'm just going to go back and I'm always going to show you as much proof as I can. So again, you want to be entertained by this tomfoolery, that's fine with me. But if you want to really know what's going on, I hope you'll tune in and subscribe. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. This takes place first. And then all of a sudden, some of the stories start coming out. Wink talks about the Rich Cimini article. And before you know it, Mike Florio's talking about it. You see how this goes? This is exactly how it works. And before you know it, a few weeks go by or a few months go by, and you'll be getting into a conversation with a fellow fan or something like that. And the fan will talk about how Woody is constantly meddling with the team, and he's the biggest problem because of that. He was the reason why Aaron Glenn became the defensive coordinator. He did this, that, or the other thing. And you're saying, no, that's not true. What are you talking about? Oh, no, yeah, I heard it somewhere, because they probably don't even remember where they heard this shit. And you know why? Because they heard it maybe originating on WFAN. And then maybe Rich Cimini picked it up. And then maybe Mike Florio picked it up. And then, of course, Wink Martindale, because, well, whatever, he just was a little bit pissed off because he thought he was going to have a specific job. And at the last minute or the last second, the job got taken away. Anyway, the bottom line is this is how it gets out there. Okay, a complete clown talks about it. These two ass clowns take it as gospel. And then before you know it, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 different platforms start talking about it. That's how this gets out there. So I want to give Boomer Esiason some credit. Now, I cannot play the video here, but let's listen to how Boomer responded to this, because this happened on the next day on his show.
That is not accurate, and that is just bombastic and hyperbole is what that is. And I don't want to undercut Sean in any way. I don't want to get in a fight with him or anything. That was his point of view. Somebody may have told him that, and maybe he felt like he wanted to go along with that. That's fine. I don't really care. All I know is that that is not what's going on. That's not happening.
Okay. So the one guy probably in the entire building in WFAN, and I don't agree with everything he says, Boomer. I don't. But the one guy, though, that has the most professional job in that building, he still has, works as the relationship with network football people, whether it's pregame shows or whatever the case may be. He still has, and the reason why he still has that reputation and that work is because of this, because he's not a clown. Let's stay on FAN. We're going to go to Geo. Okay, so this is Boomer wasn't here. It was Geo, and I forget who it was on with. It was on with a former Jet. And this is really important too. Okay, now Geo, just like I was saying with the other WFAN group, but these guys are better. That's why they've got the best show on the network, the morning drive slot, and so they are the most informative and best entertainers, and that's what Geo is out of the two. Boomer is more of the informative expert. Geo is the entertainer, and Geo is a very funny guy, and he's very much that common New Yorker. Geo, of course, like everybody's got an ego. I don't blame him for that, but Geo tries to step over that boundary too much. The boundary where he tries to act like I'm an expert and I'm going to tell you the way it is. And when Geo goes over that line, this is when he acts like a fool or sounds like a fool, and not a good way. So let's check out exactly how much Geo knows about football. Let's start it. I think we could start it right here.
I think there's a bigger point being missed here that sort of hammers home a point I've been talking about for a while with the general manager and Darren Muji. There's two things that have happened in this offseason that the Jets and only the Jets have had to do because they are looked at throughout the league as the bottom of the barrel organization that no one wants to go play for.
Remember what he just said. Only the Jets.
And Geno Smith, we will get into that part of it in a second, but I wanted to get this out there first because I think people are missing this. They had to trade for two guys who were going to be released in almost any other year in the offseason because they can't convince anybody to come play with them.
Right. See, that's the one thing that is really unfortunate on some of these channels, especially when it comes to the Jets bashing and the comic relief. You just don't have enough smart people to counter. All you get is right, or everybody agrees and everybody laughs about it. That's too bad.
And then give him a new contract. And then they had to trade for Geno Smith, who everybody was told was going to get released a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Everybody knew. But because if Geno had hit the wire and all other teams would have had an opportunity to sign him, Geno might have said, hell, I'll go to Minnesota to be a backup before I go to the Jets to start. So they give him some more money. They rework the contract to pay him up front with his base salary. And they have to trade for him to be able to do that and convince him to come to the Jets. I've never seen that in an offseason in the history of sports where a team has to trade for a player that would have been released otherwise just to get them to play for them.
I've never seen that in the history of sports. Wow. Let's take a look at it. NFL.com. The Raiders are trading two-time Pro Bowl quarterback to the Jets. Las Vegas is sending a 2026 seventh-round pick with Smith in exchange for a 2026 sixth-round selection, moving up from 228 to 208. Okay. So the Raiders in this deal made the deal, and the Jets were able to get Geno, and they allowed the Raiders to move up 20 spots in the draft. Okay. So according to Gio, it's the only time that this has ever happened in the history of sports. Let's take a look at what happened with the Indianapolis Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. This is from the Colts website. The Colts on Friday acquired a 2026 sixth-round pick from the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for wide receiver Michael Pittman and a 2026 seventh-round pick at number 230 overall. So what happens here is that the Colts, instead of releasing Michael Pittman, which they were going to, they get something in return. And Pittsburgh, because they don't want to have to compete with the rest of the teams for Michael Pittman, are able to acquire him. And what did they give up? They give up 14 spots in the draft. I think, or 16, excuse me, 16 spots. So the Colts can move up 16 spots in the draft, and they trade Pittman to the Steelers. This offseason, probably within a week of what happened with Geno. It doesn't happen in the history of sports. We could also take a look at DJ Moore. Okay, I'm just going to read this. DJ Moore was going to get cut, and they gave up a second-round pick to get him, one executive said. They gave up a second-round pick and $40 million in guarantees. This is somebody that was critical of it because this was actually from an article in The Athletic. And I can't show the Athletic articles because it's a paid service. So it was someone. It was basically they were going through. Athletic does a really good job, and they take a look at all 32 teams, AFC one day, NFC another day, and they talk about the biggest impacts of free agency for those teams. And they get actual NFL executives to tell them what they think about their offseason and their biggest deals. So with the Bills, this one executive, this is what he says: Moore was going to get cut. They gave up a second-round pick to get him. They gave up a second-round pick and $40 million in guarantees. What is going on? And he was saying that because, yeah, I mean, the Bills, you got to think about this. We're talking about 6th-round draft picks, 7th-round draft picks for Michael Pittman and Geno Smith, the starting quarterback. And the Bills are giving up a 2nd-round draft pick to get, again, a player who was going to get cut. And they got to give the guy $40 million in guarantees. And that's the other thing to keep in mind. When a player goes to another team, like what just happened with Pittman as well, anytime these guys go to different teams, you are going to have situations where you are going to restructure the contract, or you're going to give the guy a raise, or whatever the case may be. That does not have to happen. Now, you have no right whatsoever when you get traded. Well, in some situations. But you do have rights when it comes to your contract. So if these players, whether it's Michael Pittman or Geno Smith or DJ Moore, did not want to get traded to those teams, and they were completely against it, and I can't believe this has to happen, and I'm Geno Smith, I can't believe I got to go to the New York Jets, and yet you go ahead and you put together, a very friendly deal that everybody's satisfied with. Sometimes you actually, a deal like this is made and you can look at an extension. Maybe you couldn't get the extension on the other team. And if you really don't want to be there, then you just settle for whatever it is. And again, look, nobody knows, really, no one does, whether Geno would have re-signed with the Jets if he would have been cast out, which he was going to be. But smart business in any sport, especially football, which is what we're talking about here, smart business. This is how smart people run their businesses. All 32 teams do it. Is that why do I have to compete with the other 31 GMs out there when I could just put out a deal, give them a pick late, or even just swap picks, which happen all the time, contrary to Gio, who believes it's never happened in the history of sports. And you wind up giving away 15, 30 spots or whatever the case may be in the draft. That's what you have to give up in order to guarantee that you don't have to compete with this player, because it's going to wind up costing you more than likely. That player is going to be like, well, I don't know, I was kind of thinking of going over here, whether he actually was preferring to just sign with you anyway. But the smart agent, of course, and player will play the game. And they'll be like, well, hey, you know what? I can go over here. So if you want me, all of a sudden, you got to pay more because you're not competing with another team. So why do that? Why? It's more important to just get the player in your building and go about doing that. You can even look at what happened with hockey. If you're into hockey, the biggest hockey trade of the season, I know as a Vancouver fan, what happened to Quinn Hughes going to Minnesota. A major gamble for Minnesota, because Quinn Hughes is going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. This also happens quite a bit in every sport. Doesn't happen a lot, because, especially to a major player, because there are big risks. And for Minnesota, there's a major risk. They gave Vancouver 3 really good players. They gave him a premium draft pick and quality, a couple of really good prospects and a solid player. And it could all blow up in their faces if Quinn Hughes decides, all right, at the end of the season, yeah, it was nice while I was here, but I was never going to sign here anyway. Sorry. But why did they do it? The point I'm not trying to make is, why did they make the risk? That being an enormous risk. But again, they're not getting Geno Smith or Michael Pittman. They're getting one of the best players in the league. And that's why they had to give all of that talent away. Why are they doing it? Because once you acquire the player, again, You don't have to wait for him to become a free agent. And now you got to play ball. And he's deciding, I don't know where to go. I'm going to go to Jersey, Minnesota, so-and-so. So now you're competing with a bunch of other teams. And again, maybe your price tag is going to go up. You're not going to get a little bit of a discount because he's been there. That's how the game is played in every sport across the nation. Gio. So he goes on in this article, as one agent noted, getting free agents to choose Buffalo over other NFL cities can be tricky. How about that? Who would have thought that, huh? Huh, Gio? Who would have thought that? This isn't some talk show host. This is an NFL executive that's just letting you know, as much as you think the Jets are some piss poor destination, why would anybody think that the Buffalo Bills would be a piss poor destination when you have constant winning and you've got a franchise quarterback? But getting free agents to choose Buffalo over other NFL cities can be tricky. More played under new head coach Joe Brady. That goes on and talks about why it was. Now, again, because if you're looking into it, it did make a lot of sense because Joe Brady, as he says, was in Carolina with DJ Moore. He had a career high season in 2020 when Brady was there as his OC. Now he's the head coach. So you've got, familiarity, all that kind of stuff. And now you can say, oh, I'm happy to be here. Sounds good. There comes the $40 million in guarantees. So I've just given you two big examples right off the bat of deals that were made within the last couple of weeks where Gio has never heard of this in the history of sports. And I bring it up, again, I'm not bringing it up to bash Gio. Okay, and I don't have anything unless I end up knowing any of these guys, which I don't personally. And since I don't know any of these guys that I'm going to be talking about in the future here on this channel personally, I'm not going to bash them to the extent where I don't think they should have a job or shouldn't own a channel. All this is about when you come to this channel, I am going to give you the facts. I'm going to give you information that you need to know as a fan to win the argument, to know that you are on the winning side, no matter what the other person believes. Because the other person, when you have that argument with them regarding Woody Johnson is the puppet master, and he's convinced, and he's actually, he is the reason Aaron Glenn is the defensive coordinator. He made all the calls, and Aaron Glenn has no power there. Nobody ever has any power there, and nobody ever wants to go there. That would be according to one show on WFAN and Gio on another show. These are people from the biggest sports station in the country, in the backyard of the New York Jets. This is where 90% of Jet fans reside and hear these shows on a daily basis and get their information from. And so I promise you, if you subscribe to this channel, this is what you're going to get. It's what you're always going to get. Now, I'm not going to sit here all the time and do these videos. That's all I'm going to do. No, I'm going to have my own opinions on things. Like I said at the very beginning of this video, what I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to get caught up on some of the bigger videos and things that I wanted to contradict, and I wanted to just use as examples of what we're doing here. Okay. Next, let's go back to WFAN and let's check out, these guys again.
So Brian Costello asks him point blank, what the heck happened with that?
I'm glad you asked that. And let me preface this by saying this first. You get respected in this league by winning. And when you do that, there's certain narratives that like just really change. And I think there's a narrative about this team. I think there's a narrative about me, about our general manager, and about Woody that really needs to change.
And he's 100% right. And I'm not doing this to kiss his ass or kiss the Jets' ass or defend the Jets, because he doesn't need anybody to defend him. because he's absolutely right. Winning is what's going to change the narrative. And you know what? It's going to change the narrative. That's what's so exciting as far as I'm concerned as a fan, to be in a situation where you're looking ahead to the future within months time, 6 months, 8 months, whatever the case, 12 months, and you know, based on your history, everything that you've done, all of your experience as an analyst, that you know that things are about to change. And that's why I'm excited to do this. And that's why Aaron's excited. That's why Darren's excited. And I'm sure Woody is too, because they all know this is going to change. But we're going to be here now while all these clowns around the media continue to say the stupidest shit just because they think they're funny. And then they're going to turn around. And I can't wait for that time. I really can't. I can't wait to put on the clips that we're going to put on, where they're going to try to do their best, even if it's like, hey, I was wrong. And that's the thing that you'll get. You'll get from all of them. Okay. I shouldn't say all of them will say they're wrong, but for the most part, they'll in some way admit they were wrong. Maybe. But when they do it, it'll be pretty quick. They'll admit it, they'll say it, and then that's it. They'll never say it again. This way, in the future, somebody will come, oh, you were saying this. I admitted I was wrong. Yeah, you spent 5 seconds admitting you were wrong and 500 hours giving your expert opinion on what you think of the organization, what you think of Aaron Glenn, what you think of what they're doing. And that's the thing that as Jet fans, we have to deal with this constantly. It's the same thing. It's like the draft. That's a great narrative right there. The Jets have not had historically bad drafts in about, 20, 30 years? Maybe that. Could be longer. It's been a very long time when the Jets had a really bad draft, something where you could make fun of the Jets for having that side. I'm not talking about, well, they missed on Zach Wilson or missed out on Sam. That's not a historically bad draft. It's like, all right, we missed on a quarterback. Everybody does. But the narrative that started way back when I was growing up, the whole ridiculousness that took place at those times. That's why I say on the video, the one that we first posted here on this channel, what I went through those years, those were the bad years. Those were the years that were bad. When you were part of what really badly run organizations look like. And those teams, the ridicule was warranted, and we accepted it because we knew it. Now they're trying to do the same thing, or the trial. Oh, the Jets can't even screw this one up at the draft. What are you talking about? Screw what up? They just haven't screwed up things in the draft in like 3 decades. So because they were a laughingstock in the draft with a completely different, even owner and a completely different front office, that means that even the Jets can't screw this up. But we deal with it, right? But I know at least, because of my experience and what I do for a living, at least I have enough power, what little it is. Obviously, you, the audience, will decide how big it is in order to say, hey, I'm not gonna sit back and just allow this to happen without pushback.
Here's how Woody operates in this situation. I have an opportunity to go in there and speak with him about my vision on how I see the coaching staff, my vision on how I see the team. And Woody's answer is always, what can I do to help you? What can I do to help you be successful? And I feel fortunate to be in a position to have an owner that operates that way. So I would really like that narrative to change, that he's involved. He's trying to force me or Moose to do certain things. Man, he's there to support. He's always been there to support. And the only thing I can speak for is myself and my relationship with him. And it's been outstanding. So I guess to answer your question, he is not pushing me to pick coaches. He is not pushing me to operate this team a certain way. The only thing he's doing is supporting it. And I feel fortunate to have an owner like that.
Okay. So I this is something I bring up an awful lot, and this is really important. When you are dealing with the media, you're dealing with specific channels, media types, people who have an opinion. And again, this is why I wanted to bring up the whole Geo thing, and I want to bring it up on this show. Like I said, an example, we brought it up. I think it's really important. So you guys know in advance or after the fact, but what you're dealing with. Remember, like I said before, hey, if you're just entertained by these guys and you just like their personality, all that, great, fine. I have no problem with that. But when it comes to being educated about things that are right or wrong, about a specific topic, about a team, about what they do and how they do it, then this is what's going to come out. And what you have to do is you have to decide, am I going to believe the player, what he says, the coach, what he says, the owner, what he says, the general manager, what he says, or I'm going to believe these guys? That's basically what it is. Now, you can go ahead and believe whatever you want. It's up. You would hope it would be up to them because they got such a wide audience to explain this to you themselves. But because they don't want to do that, because they have a narrative on the organization and they have a narrative on the Jets overall and their players and everything about them, and it's entertaining and this is the way they're going to run with it, and that's fine. That's what they're going to do. And we're going to get to how they're going to respond from this. But the point is I will trust the source. I'm going to trust the player, what he says, the owner, what he says, the GM, what he says, the coach, what he says. Now, there might come a time where, because those players and coaches and GMs and owners are also up for scrutiny, of course. And then over time, and it only takes one, they say something, and then you find out it's not true, that they were bullshitting, they were lying, they were covering it up, then that's it. I'm not going to listen to them anymore. But until that happens, you have to, or my advice is you need to give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't give these guys the benefit of the doubt. They don't know what they're talking about. You heard that guy from this show before. He's giving you like a play-by-play about what's going on in a room with like probably 3 or 4 people. You think he's going to find out anything about that conversation? I mean, we'll get to Mike Francesa in a little bit, but maybe I believe in Mike Francesa type. Like if it was, and I would definitely believe Mike Francesa if he said something about Bill Parcells, because they had a relationship that I trusted. But it's very rare, extremely rare, that I'm ever going to trust a personality, a media radio personality, TV, I don't care, personality over the source.
The problem is most sane Jet fans don't believe you.
Right. Because you know what he believes more of? He believes more of what his little ass clown partner from before said. That's what he believes that. But he doesn't believe Aaron Glenn. He doesn't believe the source.
And I hate to say that because I don't want to call anybody a liar, but based on our history of hearing Woody Johnson and seeing Woody Johnson and knowing all the different things he's done over the years, I just don't believe you. And when you end it by saying, it's such an honor or a privilege to have him as the owner, all of us laugh.
Yeah. You see, right there, that's all you need to know. Aaron Glenn has been a coach of this team for 1 year. He is a former player. And you can check out my other video that talks about Aaron Glenn and why I believe that if you are a true diehard green and white Jet fan, he's not. if you're a true diehard fan, then what you would have to say is, hey, Aaron Glenn, he is the perfect leader for this team because he bleeds green and white. There's no other coaching candidate out there that would bleed green and white like Aaron Glenn. And just because he had one bad year in his first year record-wise does not mean that now all of a sudden anything that Aaron Glenn says you're not going to believe. What did Aaron Glenn ever say that gave you an indication that, well, wait a second, Aaron Glenn said this and this happened? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section. What did he say? What did Aaron Glenn say? Did he say that the Jets were going to the playoffs last year? Was there any sort of record prediction that he failed? What exactly did Aaron Glenn mislead you with? How did he lie to you? How? Because you think he did a bad job as a coach? Now you don't believe what he says? What does that have to do with anything? It just shows you that they want their own narrative. And so anything that they say, they're not going to believe because they can't believe it, because they've built this narrative. And in order for it to be true, in order for them to be right, in order for them to be, hey, you're listening to us, we know what we're talking about. We're the Jet fan, and I know exactly what's going on, and that's why you got to watch us, listen to us, and yeah, we know what's going on. You have to believe all this ridiculous nonsense in order to be that person, in order to live in that world. All right. I can't believe this guy's still around. Where do I have this? Here it is.
Get him out. He's a disaster. I mean, he's not the guy. I mean, I'm sorry. He's just not the guy. What we've saw from the Jets the last 4 weeks is not professional football.
What he's talking about is December. He's talking about the Jets in December, and he needs to leave. And this is a lot of the narrative from the Jets, because don't forget, going into that part of the season, forget what was the Jets. I know that they had record-wise. I'll pop it up here in a second. I could probably do it here. The Jets actually, remember, there were some really entertaining games, and even though they weren't winning, they were still close, and things were, first year you were like, okay, I could see stuff here. And then all of a sudden, the end of the season, and again, they didn't have a great record early anyway, but they got off to that winless start. And then all of a sudden, right here, remember this, they won 3 out of 5. Okay. They had a big win over the Bengals, who were still fighting for a playoff spot. Then they beat the Browns and they beat the Falcons. Okay. And they lost these 2. So they're 3-2 in the 5-game span. So apparently then Aaron Glenn, I guess, knew what he was doing, right? Or at least, things were headed in the right direction. They were winless, and all of a sudden they were 3-2, and everything is looking like, hey, maybe there's something here. Well, according to Joe Benigno, and according to a lot of media types and even fans, this is the reason Aaron Glenn needs to leave. Because the historically bad December and Buffalo, those last, 5 games were so historically bad that he's got to go. You can't possibly coach like that. You can't possibly have a team like that, be the leader of that team as the coach, and know what you're doing. He's got to go. And here were all the blowouts: the Dolphins, Jags, Saints, Patriots, Bills. Keep in mind, Jags, Patriots, Bills, all playoff teams. Jags had that big winning streak at the end of the season. Patriots went to the Super Bowl, and the Bills are the Bills. They lost those other 2 to the Dolphins and the Saints, and that kind of compounded things. that this is the historically bad. This is the reason why Jet fans believe he should go. Okay. I am now going to go over. Let me get this out of the way. Actually, I can drop this for now. Okay. So I'm going to go over the players that were in the lineup for the Jets during this 5-game stand. Our lads. We'll have a link in the description of this video how you can order the Our Lads draft guide. Matter of fact, I'm going to be doing I don't need to do that. What am I doing? I'm so used to doing draft stuff. We're going to be really cooking this month with Our Lads. You can order their draft guide, link in the description of this video. And we're just going to be doing so. Let me put this over here because I don't know why that does that. Makes it real harder for me to do it on my second monitor. Okay. Just pop this up here. And then, you weren't even able to see that. Okay. Okay. So here you go. This is the latest depth chart for the Jets. This way you can see where some of these players are. And a lot of them are on defense. So let's keep this in mind, okay? Jordan Clark, who wasn't even drafted. Dean Clark, who wasn't even drafted. They played a combined 319 snaps during that stretch. And I said this on one of my, I don't know when I said it, but I said it after the season on probably one of our other shows over at ProLine TV and NER Lads Football Network, that just keep in mind that these guys are like starting, and next year they're probably not even going to be on the team. And I still hold that to be true, because the Jets have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, they have 9 defensive backs right now that will be on the team. That's 9. Don't you think they're going to draft a couple of defensive backs this year? Of course they are. It's Aaron Glenn. You think he's not going to draft at least 1 or 2 DBs that he expects to be on the roster? That'd be 11. These guys are not making the team. All right. And they had significant starting time during that stretch. Stiggers. We don't really know what Stiggers is made of. He's not the player yet that we want him to be, but hey, he was out there for 190 snaps. He's not the starter. Matter of fact, if things go well, and I still believe the Jets are going to use one of their early picks on a corner to compete with Thomas. Now, this all depends on what they really believe in Thomas, because we hope that he can turn into a number 1 quarterback because he has the talent, but he's got to stay healthy. And I think they're going to draft 1 corner early, because I also think they want to have a backup plan here, because Brownlee also was banged up last year. So they need another early round corner. And I don't know whether Stiggers can be that guy, but he was out there for 190 snaps. Up on the defensive line, Peyton Page, another kid that was not drafted last year, played the last couple of games, 56 snaps. Braden McGregor, he's still been able to find his way on this team over the last couple of years as another non-drafted player. He played 90 snaps. You don't see him here, but Kalen Saunders along the defensive line, I don't know if he's down, if we see him here. Yep, here he is. He's still a free agent. He played 141 snaps. Walker, is he gone? No. What did we do with Walker? We did re-sign him. Undrafted free agent last year. He played 135 snaps. Actually, he wasn't an undrafted free agent. That kid was the kid from Fresno who played with, I think, Atlanta. That 25 there kind of screwed it up. Yeah, originally with Atlanta. But he's never been a starter. He's basically a special teams guy and a big depth guy. Also, Kadron Smith, right here. He'll be hard-pressed to make the team. He played 69 snaps. Eric Watts, just like McGregor. Taylor, remember it was the three of them? Taylor, Taylor, McGregor, and Watts from 2024, the three free agents. Well, Taylor's now with the Bills, but right now we still have McGregor. And where's Watts? Is he down here? Where is Watts? I didn't realize Watts wasn't on the team yet. All right, I guess somebody signed Watts. No, there he is. I thought he was here. Completely missed him. All right, so there's Watts and there's McGregor. 103 snaps for Watts. Samuel Womack right here. Probably not going to make the team. If he is, he's like the last DB and he's all special teams. 73 snaps. Trey Brown, he's right here. Same thing. He's in the same boat as all these guys. Only one of these guys probably make the team. Maybe 2 or 3 of them will be on the practice squad. And are just like, worst case scenario, if we need to play you, you were here, you know the system, we can elevate you for a couple games. But if any of these guys play meaningful snaps next year, the Jets are in trouble. 73 snaps for Womack, 54 snaps for Trey Brown. Jazir Taylor, who's not here, that didn't work out. And I guess somebody did sign him. Yeah. So he's gone. And then he played 88 snaps. And Kingsley Jonathan, right here. He played 17 snaps in the final game of the season. And this is all on defense. You want to know why they gave up so many points and why they couldn't do any turnovers even in the last month of the season? Well, there you go. Most importantly, who was the quarterback? In the last 5 games of the season, he started 4 games. He came in the first game when Taylor got hurt against Miami. Brady Cook, another undrafted kid, started for the Jets. He went 0-5, 2 touchdowns, 7 picks. His average per attempt was 4.8, which is pretty terrible. And he was sacked 19 times. And this is not a terrible offensive line. Oh, and remember, no Garrett Wilson. So the best receiver on the team, not playing. And we were playing a quarterback who may never start a game in the NFL ever again, or maybe the Jets can develop him down the road, or another team picks him up and he could be a journeyman backup. He's never going to be a starter in this league full-time. He didn't just play in his 4th year. He played in his rookie season as an undrafted quarterback. Do you know it's so difficult for first-round draft pick quarterbacks to have success in their first 5 games of a season? Throw in the fact that if you put them on a team like this in their first year, keeping in mind that they traded away some of their top players during the season, and this is what you get. But Joe Benigno and a lot of other fans in the part of the media want to look at these last 5 games and they're going to put it all on Aaron Glenn, and he doesn't know what he's doing and he needs to go. Yeah. Okay. That's another thing, by the way, that's important to note. And that is the whole idea about whether Woody would fire Aaron Glenn. I remember talking about this during other shows on ProLine and Our Lads about how ridiculous it was. Not for once did I believe that Aaron Glenn was going to get fired. Not once. And I explained it and talked about it. And those guys didn't know. Those guys, some of them wanted him out. Some of them thought he should be fired. Some thought he was going to be fired. But I never wavered because I'm not looking to be entertaining in this respect. I'm not looking to bash the team, just to bash them. And then maybe to be unkindest of all, I'm not ignorant when it comes to football. And I'm sorry, but you don't have to be somebody that watches football for a long time to be considered smart and that really knows the game. I'm not talking about, hey, like in my mind, someone like Gio, someone like Joe Benigno, or those three clowns on FAN, all they are really are, you could just put them in a bar. And if you walked by them, this is what they'd be saying about the Jets. And that would make sense. But it just happens that they have a vehicle with a microphone and to reach many people to give their opinions. Because if you think that they know what they're talking about and are not ignorant based on what I've outlined here today, then I don't really think we're going to see eye to eye on things. So one of the things that's important to keep an eye on or just remind yourself of, because this just when you do this for a living like these guys do, and it's not an easy thing to do. I'm not saying it is. There's constant discussion about the team every day, 5 days a week for several hours a day or several hours a week, months, for the whole season, for the year. And what can get lost easily are things that happen during the season that dictate the way the team is going to play at the end of the season and what the plan is. Because they're not in the building, they're not in the meetings, and they don't know the strategy. They don't know the goals. They don't know what they've planned. To them, they don't know what they're doing. There is no plan. And yet, all you have to do is look at the trades for Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams to know that Woody Johnson was never going to fire Aaron Glenn. Well, why would he? No pun intended. He knew the plan. He understood the plan. That trading Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams meant that it was all about the next couple of years and the draft. It was about these. We're getting a lot of money last offseason. That's another thing that I find kind of funny is that you get some people that want to compare the way the Jets did their offseason this year to last year. Well, the reason the Jets didn't make certain moves last year compared to this year was financial. Now, sure, they still could have spent a little bit more and gone down a little bit different of an aggressive path last year compared to this year. But why would you do that in your first year? There's no reason to do that. Especially when there's the possibility of a rebuild, a quick rebuild. What do you think that Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn just woke up in the early October and they decided to trade Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams? These were things that were talked about when they first got together. That this is what we have to do. This is not necessarily that they're going to do it, but we have to have a plan laid out depending on how the season goes. And seeing already, seeing the writing on the wall of how the team was, and I got an opportunity to coach these players myself. I'm around them, especially the most important players, the ones that if we did have success in a couple of years, these were going to be our leaders. And they felt at that time, well, before they got to the decision-making time, okay, we're gonna see about this, but if we're not sure about it, then we got to trade these guys, and this is the direction we have to go. Well, they got to that point. I'm sure they talked about it every day for months. And then they decided to pull the trigger. And don't think they just called Woody up. Hey, Woody, we want to do this. Can we do it? Can you give us permission to? And then Woody was like, what? What do you want to do? I'm not part of this plan. Really? This is what you want to do? Of course, Woody understood the plan. He understood everything that these guys were thinking about doing before the season started. So when the time came, hey, Woody, we want to make this move now. We talked about it. We've talked about it for weeks with you. We talked about it before the season began. Now I think we're going to have to do this. That's the direction we do want to go. Okay. You have my blessing. You don't turn around a couple of months later when you have injuries, when you have players that have been shipped out, talented players, when you have your top two quarterbacks out for injury, and you have to start an undrafted rookie, and you have to play all these players outlined, and you play incredibly bad because you have players, half of the players on the field are probably not even going to be on your team next year. And of course, Woody knew this was going to happen. Now, look, they were coaching to win. We all know that. You can say what you want about tank this or tank that. And there are ways to tank without not trying to win. I get that. And that's fine. But they were trying to win and they couldn't because they didn't have the talent. And hey, worked out that we wound up with some great draft collateral and a situation where we were in a good position with that second pick. Now we're in a really good situation this year in the draft and next year in the draft. And between these two drafts and this offseason here, we're in a really good situation. So anybody who didn't understand that or get that, and a lot of these guys didn't, they really, really don't know football. Not like a business. They just know it as a fan would, any fan would. And in a way that's really sad. It really is. Because you would hope that if you have a job that is your full-time job, that you would want to be a little bit smarter about it. And you'd be a little bit more educated about it. That's why sometimes I'll say to myself, well, some of those guys probably are lazy where they don't want to do the homework because they just want to believe what they want to believe. And other people are looking at it maybe like, well, yeah, probably if I go down that road, I'll probably find out stuff that will change my narrative, but I like my narrative. It's entertaining. I get traffic from it. And there are a lot of people that believe my BS. So I'm okay with it. So I get that. A couple other things before we go. Another, and we're going to talk on our next video, or one of our next videos, I'm going to talk about another Jets channel owner and a recent conversation with a former NFL executive, which I think is very informative and I think should be a video in itself. So that'll be coming up. Here's another reporter that has covered the Jets over the last several years who has no right covering NFL football teams because Diana Rossini she doesn't know anything about football. She just doesn't. She said she brings this out. Now, again, remember, she's supposed to be somebody that covers football teams and is supposed to cover them in a way that informs people. But that's apparently not what Diana Rossini likes to do. See, she wants to have it both ways. She wants to be able to put in a really in-depth. She did it with Rosenblatt with The Athletic last year or 2 years ago on the whole Aaron Rodgers stuff. And she was ridiculous in that article then, and she's ridiculous now. When she brings up this caption as lying, even without mentioning failed physicals, we've heard plenty of tall tales recently. None made me laugh more than the aforementioned Demario Davis quote on the Jets website about heading back to New York. Quote, once my agents let me know the Jets were an option, it was a no-brainer. She goes on, that must be a first. Here's what a more candid Brett Favre said after joining the Jets in 2008. To a certain degree, I don't know what I got myself into. So she thinks this is quite funny. She's putting the organization down again. What are you? Are you a reporter that's supposed to dig facts and you're supposed to be respected? Or do you want to have fun and you just want to screw around and you want to laugh more than you've had in a while? because she can't get why Demario Davis would be excited to return to the Jets. And the fact that she doesn't get that just shows you that she does not understand football. She doesn't understand men, and she shouldn't even be anywhere near the sport. And there are a lot of other men that feel the same way because they don't know football, that might feel this same way about Demario Davis and Geno Smith. I don't believe it. I don't believe that Geno Smith or Demario Davis really want to go back to the Jets, but they'll take the money. Yeah, they just, maybe nobody else wanted them to give them that much money. They'll go to the Jets because they just don't get it. They don't get and understand what is going through Geno and Demario right now. What's going through their heads and their hearts of coming back to a place where they were drafted, where it failed. And they get the opportunity to come back to that place. And in their final few years of playing football, neither of them won a Super Bowl, about being able to go back and do something special in a place where it was very special to them, and with a coach and an organization that they believe in. And I'm sorry that there are some people out there like Rossini and others that have this, brain size of a pea when it comes to football that just don't get that. But that's the case. And that's part of the reason why the Jets are going to have a much better season this year than people are going to, at this point in time, give them credit for. Now, hey, maybe by time we get to training camp, or maybe by time we get to the preseason or week 1, some of the narrative will have changed by then. But right now, you're not going to get any of these people believing any of that, because they don't believe in it. And again, it doesn't fit their narrative. But as I said, I am going to have a very, very good time here being a part of this and being a part of seeing the New York Jets change for the better in front of your eyes and their eyes. I will say, look, I like Rosenblatt. I think he's very informative on The Athletic. If you don't have The Athletic, I think that's what you should read. I don't think you should read anything else. I mean, I think, look, the Post is good. Ryan Dunleavy does a good job. I trust Ryan. And I think I don't agree with everything that Rosenblatt says, but I think he does good work. And he actually, there was an article that came out, and it was titled, what was it titled? Something like, here it is. Quietly, methodically, Jets GM Darren Muji is having a moment. And he talked about the offseason and the moves and all that. And again, I can't show you the article, but the paragraph starts, one of the paragraphs, Jets owner Woody Johnson referred to Muji as Glenn's sidekick at their introductory news conference, and Glenn still wields significant power. But the truth is, it's a partnership, a true collaboration. And by all accounts, the two complement each other well. Glenn is involved in every decision the Jets make with the roster and pushed this offseason to sign players he was familiar with, and Muji was involved in Glenn's process for hiring new coaches this offseason. You're not going to get any of this stuff with the clowns. And why this is important too is you have to pay for this. And that's why you're going to get the best Jets covered at Jets Confidential with Dan Leberfeld, at The Athletic, because people are not going to pay for garbage, because they can smell it. The average fan can smell this shit. And trust me, on one of our other future videos, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the Jets' original press conference with Aaron Glenn, and we're going to check out a lot of comments that were made at the time. And even right now, we'll check out comments from current videos out there, because there's a lot of fans out there that do trust, like myself, this particular front office, Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn, that they're going to get it done. I'm not alone in this. And I know I'm not alone in this. I wouldn't even dare to start a channel like this if I wasn't alone with this. I know there's more than enough Jet fans out there if I can just reach them with your help, not just by subscribing, but by sharing the videos, by liking the videos, and the more you do that, the more YouTube will put this out there and will bring in more Jet fans that want good coverage. They want smart coverage. And I'm going to do my best to entertain you as well. This isn't just going to be all about black and white. And especially once we start getting going with games, forget it. We're going to have a lot of fun. So there was a paragraph, in parentheses, excuse me, during that paragraph where he says, a true collaboration. Then in parentheses, contrary to what Mike Francesa would have you believe. So this is when you click it, this is where it goes. And I can show you this on Twitter. And what a big surprise that Jack Asman tweeted this out. Now, if this was someone who, like me, when they would, because I'm not going to go over what Mike says, but just listen to Jake. Mike Francesa reports a major power shift inside the Jets. According to Francesa, Woody Johnson gave Darren Muji the power. Aaron Glenn is not on equal footing with Muji. The relationship between Glenn and Muji isn't as smooth as it's been portrayed. Muji is now in charge. It is not equal. Mike Francesa has not been relevant as far as part of the New York media, realistically, since I used to listen to the show over 30 years ago. And again, as I said, he was at his most relevant during the Giant years because he had access to Bill Parcells with a 2-time Super Bowl winning coach. And that was the time that you enjoyed Mike and the Mad Dog the most. Credible, good information. They had their sources, especially Francesa. Mad Dog was the entertainment, and it was great. It's not that way anymore from Mike Francesa. I can guarantee you, if you looked at Mike Francesa's audience age, wherever they have that information, I bet you it's probably between 45 and 80. Nobody's listening to him in the 30s and the 20s and teenagers. They're not going to listen to him. The only people going to listen to him are people that used to listen to him, that just like him and always will. He's not getting a new audience because of this bullshit. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He doesn't have any access to the Jets. This is why this is ridiculous. He doesn't have any access and know anything. Because, as I said before, on other videos and other shows, the Jets have done such a great job in making sure that nobody knows what's going on there. Because nobody does. And when you do that, okay, when you do that and you are in charge of that, and that is the way you do things, you don't change. You don't slip up because you know how important it is. It's like putting your underwear on in the morning. These guys know, it's like their whole reputation is at stake. Their whole livelihood is at stake. They know in order to be successful with the New York Jets and building a championship franchise here, it starts like this. There could be no room for outside influences. None. Whether it's we've hired people, the wrong people that are spreading gossip to the newspapers for favors, or we don't have any players doing that. I'll tell you right now, if you ever see the Jets from last year, since these guys were on board, and just follow them for however long they're together, and let's hope it's a very long time, you're going to find out, or you can just remember this, that when they release a player, when they cut a player, when they trade a player, same thing for a coach, that sort of thing, look at two things. One, how good or bad really were they, or really how bad were they as a player or a coach? Or two, maybe it was something else. Maybe they found out that they weren't playing ball the way they need to be. And that maybe they shared some information they shouldn't have. Because once they find that stuff out, they're going to cut it out, clip it, find out who it was, get him out. And that's how you build, in New York, especially, a successful football franchise. Okay, that's going to wrap it up. Again, I look forward to doing this as much as possible. I'm going to try and keep these videos a lot shorter now that I'm caught up. This way, there'll be more daily. Hey, I see something, boom, 5-minute video. There's still a few things I'm going to get caught up on, including that video I talked about. It's actually with Jack Asman and Mike Tannenbaum. I thought it was a very insightful interview from the typical person in the media, the outside person, and somebody that really does know things. And I thought it was very, very enlightening, and I want to share some of those points with you as soon as we can. And we'll do some other things as well related to that conversation. So again, I hope you'll subscribe, like, and share. Don't forget, check out the Our Lads Football Network as well. We're going to be doing so much stuff there starting next week. We're recording this on Saturday, April the 4th. And we'll see you guys again, hopefully real soon, right here on Jets Chronicles. And yeah,